Good morning. Welcome back to Ainane 201, Careers in Mechanical Engineering. And today we have the pleasure and the honor of hosting Dunstan Macauley, PE. You are in the building system practitioner, have 25 years in the business. You know, you're also very much involved in ASHRAE.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your job and what you do on
So, I guess the easy answer is we design building systems, but building systems have become a lot more complicated, and so, I think the more accurate answer nowadays is we help design the systems that control the indoor environment to make the spaces safe for us to live and work in our offices, our homes. We're involved in decarbonization because the biggest user of energy are buildings. So now that's where our systems that we design have an impact on global climate change. So the more robust answer is we are looking to design healthy indoor environments that are having the least amount of impact on the overall environment.
Yeah, and I see the importance. I was at a conference a few years ago, and somebody, I don't remember what the talk was, but it turned out that the amount of energy used for air conditioning in the country, in the very small country of Kuwait, was more than the country of Morocco. The whole country usage and energy was being used by a tiny country in air conditioning only.
Yes.
So yeah, and then they continue.
So to that point, I know a few years ago the New York Times had an article. It was right after the Cowboy Stadium opened up, and it was near and dear to my heart because I'm originally from Liberia, and they said that on a game day, the stadium used more energy than the entire country of Liberia used in a year. And I mean, there's a nuance to it because at the time, Liberia was just coming out of war, and most of the grid was destroyed. So most of the generation was by portable generators, and not, most things were not connected to the grid. But the fact that you have a building that you can even make that statement that one building, one facility is using more energy, and most of it is obviously is lighting. But a big portion of it is being a dome stadium is controlling the indoor environment. It's the air conditioning to keep the space comfortable, and it's amazing.
So if I'm right, you received your bachelor's degree in '95.
Yeah, I finished up most of my work in '95, and then I officially graduated, and I had one course to finish up, and I finished that up in 2000, and I can't remember now, 2002.
So, first of all, how did your degree or a particular course or courses help you get into this area?
It played a significant part. A lot of work the thermal fluids courses greatly influenced me in getting into HVAC and our design. Working with professors like Dr. Rademacher and Dr. Hadi played a great part. I did some research for Dr. Rademacher as an undergrad student. In fact, the research I was working on, one of the research projects I was working on was right after the Kyoto Protocol, which phased out CFC refrigerants. The next gen refrigerations, we were doing some testing on some of what became one of the commonly used next gen refrigerations, and now we're phasing that set of refrigerants out now. So, it played a very significant part in the work that I've done, and in picking my career path.
What kind of student would be interested in something similar to a career path?
Obviously, well, you know, a great part of what we do is based on thermodynamics, heat transfer, and fluid mechanics. So I would say anyone who has a passion for that area of mechanical engineering will do extremely well. Anyone who has a passion for learning and challenges and designing systems, right? Because you know the beauty of what our industry does is where no two buildings are alike. So each new project brings a different challenge. Each new client brings a different challenge. So just looking at any student who wants to be challenged on a regular basis, looking to who are interested in the thermodynamics, the fluid mechanics, the heat transfer. That is the bulk of what we do on a daily basis, and if you have a passion for those subjects, you will essentially do well in the field.
Great. And I can relate to that. I have a passion teaching thermodynamics. I love teaching that.
Yeah.
I must have taught it 30 times. And this is the first time I'm teaching heat transfer.
Yes.
And I can see a number of students really, you can see the light in their eyes. Wow,
Yes.
this is, so I guess that's, what skills do you think are a must in your line of business?
Being inquisitive, asking questions, right? Challenging, always be willing to take things to the next level, right? That when you're in the middle of designing a building and all the challenges, you have to work with so many different disciplines. You have the architect who has a design for that structure. And then you have a structural engineer who has to support the structure. And then you have your mechanical systems that's needed for the indoor environment. Space becomes a premium. Cost is an issue. So now, how can you be innovative in providing a very efficient system that's cost effective, that doesn't conflict with the other disciplines, right? So that's the biggest challenge is, I'm constantly challenged by architects, okay, how can you fit this in a much smaller space? And and again, for that's what I thrive on. It's another challenge. What can we do? What innovative process we can think about to accomplish the same goal, but in a much smaller space, or having to find some path of routing. For example, I'll give an example. We're designing a museum. It was for the old ironclads, the USS Monitor, and the architect's vision was to have the ship sit outside, and he had glass around the ship to give the image of it being out in the water. And we had to so the ship is floating in the middle of this space, but we have to bring services to condition the space. And how do you bring modern services into a historic ship that didn't have air conditioning at the time? And so now we have to find a path to route it that works with the vision of the architect for what they want this display to be. That was like a 2.5 hour, 3 hour conversation just figuring out the routing path.
The routing.
But that's the approach you have to take, because understanding the vision of the building, understanding the needs of the owner, and finding ways to incorporate the systems to meet that vision and the goals.
So I'm going to ask a question that I don't usually ask, and the reason is the following. Yesterday we had the Capstone Expo, where the graduate students who completed the capstone course presented their projects and prototypes. So I was one of the judges. So I interacted pretty much with every graduating senior in mechanical engineering.
Yes.
And 3 or 4 of them, and I always ask, last question is, do you have a job? And 3 or 4 of them mentioned that they were going into the HVAC industry.
Okay.
And none of them knew about the PE process
Wow.
and the importance. So 25 years ago, we used to have prep classes for the EIT at the time,
yes.
no, FE.
Yes.
I ran a program through UMBC for 22 years.
Yes.
With FE prep and PE prep for mechanical and civil.
Yes.
And I did the HV part for the PE.
Uh-huh.
Unfortunately, as you know, the interest in general, but in certain areas, it's very important.
Yes.
So please emphasize that in your talk.
Okay.
As I tell students, do it. If you don't need it, really have not lost much. It's like Pascal's theory about God's existence.
Yes.
If I believe and there's a God, great. If I don't believe there's a God, I'll go to hell. So I might as well. Yes. So please mention that.
Yes.
And I've created some resources for because if they, as you know, if they
Yes.
take the FE now,
Yes.
it's a breeze.
It's
5 years from now, and I've seen people 15 years trying to remember, Rankine cycle or any kind of equation, differential equation. They're just so frustrated.
So I'll give you I should have taken the FE when I was a student. I didn't. I started working, and obviously, you kept on postponing it. And now, when it was time to take the PE, I had not taken the FE. And I had the brilliant idea I was going to do both of them in the same weekend.
Oh.
Right? Brutal, but in all honesty, the FE was the harder of the 2 exams.
Of course. Yeah,
because, just to your point, you're trying to remember all the information you had learned while you were in school, whereas when you take it while you're in school or right after, all that information is still fresh.
Now, a few years ago, they changed the format. So it used to be 1 FE exam for all majors.
Yes.
And so my prep was every topic in 3 hours.
Yes.
So I would walk in and there'd be 15 electrical engineers who've never had thermo, and I'd say, we're going to cover thermodynamics, including cycles in 3 hours. Make sure you bring some aspirin because you're going to have a big... and I think that's something we should start emphasizing because students don't even know about it.
Yeah. No, just as you said, I think taking you're getting your professional engineering license as soon as you can is definitely beneficial. You may never need it, but it's always good to have, and it's a sense of accomplishment.
Exactly. And if you need it, you wish you had.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. How large is your company in terms of employees?
We're about 250 employees and 5 offices. So the company is headquartered out of just outside of Philadelphia, and then we have offices in New York City, Boston, Baltimore, and DC. So. And
how does the company view diversity?
It's like with a lot of companies, it's a work in progress. We are embracing diversity. In fact, when the original owners are now retiring, one of the things that the company decided to do was fully embrace diversity, fully embrace the next generation of leaders. So they skipped sort of a generation. The individuals who are like 5 years from retirement were not moved into leadership. They went one generation past that.
So
bringing in younger folks. Our CEO is a woman. So basically, we understand that it's something that, when you start looking at all the advantages that diversity brings, we're seeing that, and we're embracing that, and so forth. We still need to do a better job. Right? We need to hire more minorities. We need more women and so forth in leadership roles. But it's a work in progress.
It's always a work in progress. You
Yes.
can never say we're done.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we thank you very much.
Yes.
I'm sure the students will appreciate the talk.
Mhm.
And
Thank you. And thanks for having me.
Sure, our pleasure. Thank you.